combination of my mom and my dad's name. Yeah, so I mashed them together. My mom is Anita, and my dad is Avi. And so I was playing with the words, and I thought, oh, hey, that actually looks really cool. And then I changed it legally and ran with it. So serial entrepreneur. I've been starting and failing businesses since I was 12. Sales is not sales, right? Sales is, I have something amazing that will bring huge value to you and your existence. And once you kind of hit that, it changes the vibe a little bit. For the leadership front, you have to empower each person, right? You're going to have surprises. You're going to have people who are like, I had no idea you were capable of that.
All right, everyone, welcome back to SALESBIZ. I appreciate you all taking the time. Before we kick it off, folks, I'm sure everyone knows the drill. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you're not subscribed. Like this specific episode if you find value out of this content, and go ahead and drop us some comments down below. Today, my guest is a seasoned professional with over 2 decades of business experience. She is the CEO and founder of Sapphire Partners, People First Remote Executive Support. Super excited to get to know her and talk about her journey. Eryn Anitavi. Eryn, welcome.
Got it. You got it. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I'm so glad I didn't badger that.
It's all right. A lot of people
do. Mine. I've had my last name badgered so many times already,
so it's a fun one. One of my favorite questions is, oh, where is that from? Right? You know, what part of the world? And I'll usually let people kind of guess, you know, because I think it's amusing. But I actually made it up. It's a combination of my mom and my dad's name. Yeah, so I mashed them together. My mom is Anita, and my dad is Avi. And so I was playing with the words, and I thought, oh, hey, that actually looks really cool. And then I changed it legally and ran with it. So
you're the first person I've ever met that
made up their last name.
I applaud your originality. That's awesome. Kudos. Well, this is already getting started on the right.
Nice.
Eryn, super excited to talk about Sapphire Partners. But before we dive into that, let's talk a little bit about Eryn. Saw that you have a ton of experience. Wanted to see how it all got started for you.
Oh man, I don't know how far back you want to go. The origin stories can go back a ways, right? You know, back in 1500. No, I'm not.
Give us a quick 5 minutes.
We don't want to go back 300 years. No, I get you. Serial entrepreneur. I've been starting and failing businesses since I was 12. And really just, I learned, the entrepreneurial lifestyle from my dad, who was an author and a traveler and a speaker. And so I would go with him and help him, you know, like run his tables, and learned about business management and all of that fun stuff way back. And then started first company when I was 16 with my future was to be future fiance. And the running joke was, well, just don't tell anyone how old you are. And so I would go into all these high level meetings and talk with people about complex subjects, and I looked the part of, you know, 21, 22, and I just kind of let it run. And then the tagline as I got older was, it's the miles, not the years. And so
I have so many questions right now.
And so I learned a lot about business and how you structure an environment so that, like, client success, customer success, all of those things, where sales is not sales, right? Sales is, I have something amazing that will bring huge value to you and your existence. And once you kind of hit that, it changes the vibe a little bit.
You said
Yeah.
you started at 12 though. Well,
Yeah.
before the 16-year-old business, what was the first business at 12?
Sewing. I did tailoring and mending and stuff like that for neighbors and family. And then my mom she loved chickens. And so we always had chickens, and we always had more eggs than we knew what to do with. So I became the egg lady. So I would take my dozens, over my shoulder and all my baskets, and I'd go to the neighbors and
Wow.
sell eggs. So
both very thriving markets, by the way, today. People still
right,
love custom stuff, and they love their good eggs.
So it's all the exciting things.
Did you always, so you adopted this level of hunger from your father? You say he was an author, but what was his industry experience outside of writing?
Primarily religious material on his stuff. Okay. And he had such a passion for all of his things. And then my mom, she dedicated most of her time to raising my brother and I, but she also had a lot of jobs on the side, and she would always just encourage us, oh, you want to go do that? Okay, we'll figure it out. Like, let's make it happen. And so just that creative exploration was always fostered. It was always there, that permission to be creative, I guess. You can think of that from, a kid's stance where I never ever heard the words, oh, you can't do that. Right. It was, well, how, figure it out. Let's go and make this happen. Right. And so at least that's how I remember it anyway.
Did it come from a place of, Eryn, I want you to be have a sense of fulfillment, or you have to have your own business because that's what I'm seeing in this country?
No, I think fulfillment. Yeah, yeah.
And those are really where the true passions and.
Yeah. And then I was a very stubborn child too, and was homeschooled through 7th grade. And by the time I started public school, I was so independent anyway that peer pressure it just rolled right off my back. I was so excited to be there. By 8th grade, everybody else is like, oh, I hate this. And I'm like, no, this is amazing. Like, there is so much learning here. There's so much opportunity. I want to do that. I want to do that. I want to do all of these things. And yeah.
You actually like school, but
I did. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and then
you finally got that networking, like you're around friends, other colleagues, I guess, students, etc.
Yeah, it was amazing. I loved all of it. And then we moved to this tiny town in Montana. Won't say I was like the happiest teenager at that point. But I went to the school, like the only high school, and I was like, yeah, so I'm going to take like this, and I'm going to take this, and I'm going to take this. And they're like, I don't know where you came from, city girl, but that's not how it works. You either enroll all the way or not at all. And I was like, fine, not at all. And went to my parents, and for whatever reason, they signed off on that. And they were like, well, if you're going to do that, go get your GED. So I did. So that was what I did at 16. I went and got my GED and basically kissed the school district goodbye. And I was like, I'm going in to start a business and got this, and I don't need you.
Love it.
So
you and I have a lot in common. I've never lived in Montana, and I definitely have a lot of questions around that, but also a high school dropout. I was a kid that didn't want to be at school because I just said, why do I need this? Why do I need chemistry? Why do I need math outside of the economic stuff? So I actually dropped out and got my own GED to it. But then I ended up in college anyway because I made a promise to my mom.
I did end up going to college. Yeah, that wasn't until post-divorce. I think I was 29 at that point.
Wow.
Yeah, trying to figure out. I was like, okay, because I got married when I was 17, which also was part of that self-determined, I'm going to do what I want kind of a thing.
So this is where I'm going back to Montana. My wife and I are binging this show called Yellowstone right now. I literally just crushed 4 seasons in like a matter of a week and a half.
That's awesome.
I don't do much Netflix and chill, but something about that show, the cowboy stuff, the familial aspect, the closest, the toughness, kind of got me, you know. Is it like that? Is it actually like everyone's running around with cowboy hats and stringing horses and all that? Or okay, it is okay.
Yeah,
Because now I can't
at
wait
least,
to visit.
yeah, at least where I was. I mean, I've always been a city girl, and so I wasn't a fan of that. I was like, hey, small town, oh, don't like this. But then when you fall in love, weird things happen to your brain. So
I hear you. I hear you. So why Montana, by the way? Was it, did your parents just see more opportunity there, or?
yeah, they liked the small town atmosphere, wanted to get out of the city, Denver area, and
So that's where you're from? Your family's from Denver?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I love
Yeah.
Denver. My son was born in Denver.
Nice.
To this day, some of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. I tell this to everyone. It's, I live in San Francisco Bay Area. We're not going to talk too much about that.
I like San Francisco.
I did too, up until 2 years ago. But anyway, walking down the street in Denver, it's, hey, good morning, sir. How are you? He's like, I don't know you, but good morning. That was very thank you. That's you.
I mean, I was 15, you know, when we're 15, 16 when we left. So my memories are pretty like limited. You know, I never actually had the chance to go out and do, you know, adulting. So I was really at the mercy of everybody around me. But I do remember, like, I loved it. Just the energy and the city and everything that goes with it. So I'm in Seattle now, and that's one of my favorite parts. Is just I love the energy that a city has.
Love Seattle.
Yeah.
Great place. I feel like it's a kind of a mix of San Francisco, but with more water and more beer. I love that beer out there. So 29, sounds like things didn't work out. We're not going to talk too much about marriage stuff, but you went back to college. You know, you always had that entrepreneurial drive, but you got into the why college. Did you find something intriguing in that? Were you looking for a specific skill?
Well, so I had 4 kids, pretty close together. I originally wanted 12, and then kind of realized that wasn't the calling. By the time I hit 4, I was like, nah, you know what? I'm good.
Third of the way is the best way.
So it was kind of a rewrite, you know, when you get married young and everything, all the rules are, you know, everybody else's rules, like, you know, you figure out this and you figure out that, and your world is comprised of all of the parts of everybody else that you meet. I kind of realized that I had to figure out who am I? Like, what do I want out of this world? And I didn't really know what it was that I wanted. So, you know, like I just knew I needed to go. And through the process of, you know, all the general education, one of the professors that I ended up connecting with, he was a psychology professor. And teachers have such huge influence over our lives, right? And I fell in love with psychology because of his classes. And so that was kind of the direction that I opted to go with that. And worked in human services for a little while and then just burned out, which is a thing, which actually is one of the cornerstones of Sapphire. And we can hop around a little bit here and there, but with Sapphire, I like a good percentage, I won't give a percentage, but a good percentage of our team are burned out social workers and counselors and people from the human services field, because I feel like individuals with that background have some real magic when it comes to executive support. Just a level of empathy and drive and understanding, you know, whether you're helping homeless people find their purpose or you're helping a CEO reach the moon. Those two drives they're so similar, right? And when you apply the same recipe to both. It's empowerment, no matter how you slice it. So that career, that education path heavily influenced where I took the company and kind of that foundation.
Got it. So you ended up getting a bachelor's in psychology, sounds like.
Associates. No,
got it.
associates, actually.
And then you said you're working in human resources after, but got
human services. Human services.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Why? Why do you feel? What do you feel contributed to the burnout? I mean, 4 kids, you know. I'd imagine that's a contributing factor. But was it actually? Maybe that is a good question. Yeah. Was it because of that? Was it work related?
No, no. It really. There's. You pour your heart and soul into people when you are working kind of in the trenches with a lot of folks. And while there are people who want to be helped and who take everything that you have to offer, and they really do build up their lives, and they're like, yes, I'm going places. This was exactly what I needed. These were the stepping stones that I needed. A percentage of them sabotage right when they get to the point where you're like, oh my God, you're there. They burn it down. And you're just like, oh, why? You were so close. And through the process of learning business and where I'm at now, CEOs don't really sabotage. So whatever you dump in, it just keeps going. And that is such a mutually rewarding relationship. Yeah. So with human services, it's hard. It's really hard. It's hard work.
Got it.
So and then you see you see so much pain, so much hardship and just hurt. And you can go 2 directions with that. You can become hard and calloused, and you can be like, all right, I've got my tunnel vision on. I don't see it. Or it gets to you. And then eventually, like, you're just embracing all of this stuff, and you feel, I want to help you. I don't know how to help you. And it goes, and then, oh man, it's a spiral.
Absolutely. So did you take like a sabbatical of some sort? Did you?
I went into heavy equipment operation.
Talk about taking the load off.
Literally. Yeah. I was like, no, I want to drive big trucks, and just like, that's where I'm at. So that was, I kind of broke a little bit.
That Montana really got you, didn't it?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. The stories, like, I think one of the aspects really of just life and all of the different things that take us where we are, for me, I am passionate about everything that I throw myself into. Like, I will go all the way into whatever it is that I'm working on. And that does like, the opportunities are there, right? If you're not saying no to an opportunity that comes, across your path, and you really look at it and you're like, huh, that's curious. I'm intrigued by that. I wonder what happens if I chase that. And you kind of live without that. I did during my whole like identity crisis, the movie Yes Man with Jim Carrey.
I was just about to bring that up.
Yeah, I did that. Like, I
love that movie.
I was like, okay, I'm gonna do that. So I set the only rule was it couldn't be permanently harmful to myself or my family or my livelihood. And other than that, I basically was like, okay, what are we doing? And yeah, the adventures, let me tell you. So
adopting that as a married man is a very dangerous practice. I don't know if I'd advise that, but happy wife, happy life, I guess they say. So yeah.
But it was amazing. It was so rewarding. Like, just, yeah, the different things that go along with that.
It did make me realize though that life is short. So, why you have these opportunities to learn guitar, learn a new language, spend
Yeah.
more time with friends. Why the hell not? So I
Or
get that.
when your friend is like, hey, you should try this candy bar that has cricket in it. And you're like, oh.
Now, would I throw a big rock across a bank, break the window and
No.
catch a flight? Probably not,
That would fall into the permanently harmful, because
Yeah.
like there are consequences for that.
So that's where the movie was a little, testing your ability side, I guess. But no, I respect it, and I'm glad you took that course. So let's talk about Sapphire. How did it all start for you? I mean, you were operating big rigs. Sounds like
It was a short
family.
little journey. That was not. I mean, it wasn't a. I would say it was like a year and a half or so. Montana. There's the other part is you do what you have to survive. There is. You have to. You just the economic opportunities are so limited that when it comes to supporting your family and supporting, what it is that you're doing and all of that, it's a combination of all those different factors. One, no fear, and supporting your family and living with passion, and all of those different things kind of it comprises all of that. So I ended up moving here to Seattle about 5 years ago. I think it's about 5 years ago now. And always had the executive assistant was kind of this holy grail of a job, right? I loved the idea of helping helping a leader reach their full potential, because I felt like it drew from just everything that I've been doing and all of my experiences and all of the people, and just it drew on all of that. Right. And I decided, I was like, I'm not going to be an entrepreneur for a little bit. I just want to work a regular job and I want to be normal. So I worked as an executive assistant here in Seattle, and I was attending this networking luncheon when the seed was placed of freelance executive support. And I thought, is that a real job? Here we go, back into entrepreneurial stuff. But that sounds really amazing. So I researched it, and I threw all of my energy into that and started working with a couple of clients, just doing freelance, 5 hours here, 10 hours here, a little bit here, a little bit there, doing it remotely. And one referral led to another, which led to another, which led to another. And all of a sudden I'm at 40 hours and I can't keep track of all of this. I'm like, I need to hire some help. And that's kind of the domino of where it all ended up going. So I went to my network, who was all social work and counseling and psychology, and that's who ended up coming to help me. And that was how I discovered that made a really powerful group of go-getters, people who were just on this path of empowerment. And now here we are, 3.5 years down the road. We have 28 people. We are global. We're in multiple different countries. We have service in multiple different languages. We are building some amazing things. And I think the most significant part is everything has been referral based. We are just now kicking off marketing as a whole. It's all been word of mouth that has brought us to where we are now. So yeah.
That's amazing. That's a beautiful story. I think I mentioned to you before we started, I started a company called Prontotask, which is virtual assistants at a rapid rate. The goal was, because I was not getting the proper support as a sales executive and a sales professional, is how do I get more support? So I wanted people to get back to me faster.
Nice.
If someone did not get back to me in a specific amount of time, I would basically slice my fees from virtual assistants. And I got to tell you, it's a very tough space to play in because you're the executive for assistant for executive assistants. And that whole it was kind of like a broken telephone for me in a way. And I did more advertising. It wasn't more word of mouth. So I didn't enjoy it as much, but I love the fact that you actually succeeded in it. What would you say was your secret ingredient to have people continuing to refer Eryn
Yeah.
and Sapphire?
So the concept of virtual assistant and VA is one of the it's I've also kind of made it a taboo word within the company. I'm like, we are not virtual assistants. It kind of, if you trace back the concept of executive support, if you say you go back to like the 1900s, right? The secretary of a corporation or a company, the CEO or leader or executive of an organization has always needed that high-powered extra brain, right? And no matter how you trace it through the progression of industry, the name of the role has shifted, but the need has not. So secretary started out as that position. It gradually got diminished. And then you had, administrative assistant, and that role got diminished. And then you had executive assistant. And I think we are in the middle of this additional, it's diminishing with the introduction of the virtual assistant. And in place of executive assistant, we're seeing a new word come in, which is chief of staff. And the dynamic, the role is exactly the same. It is a high level strategic extra brain for these amazing, brilliant leaders that we get to work with. So much more than task taking, so much more than calendar management and email support and all of that stuff, right? We dig in to what makes that human tick, where analogies are sometimes there's a number of different analogies, but if our executives are a group of beautiful ceramic tiles, we are the grout that holds that picture together, right? They create this amazing image, but there are areas like the picture is not complete. It'll fall, it'll slip, it'll slide, it doesn't hold together. And when you introduce someone who can fill those voids and hold that picture together, that is where that relationship becomes the most powerful. So when it comes to secret sauce, that's what it is. It is, we are so passionate about the businesses and the people that we work with that the value that we bring is more than just a list of things that you check off a list every day. It's really in depth. We specialize in strategy. We specialize in ambiguity. We specialize in, you just throw us what you've got, we'll figure it out. We'll make sense of it and work on that with you to bring value to you and your organization. Yeah.
Love it. And is there a specific industry that you folks work with?
No. And I think that's the greatest part about it is you find stressed out executives. It does not matter what field it's in.
Are you seeing some sort of repetition though? Some sort of
no, film production, social media, healthcare,
wow.
Writers, advisors, SaaS, all forms of technology, professional services, creative people. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why the referrals keep coming in. You're just
yeah, you're right.
so many different markets. You have so much experience across all sides. And
yeah.
love it. So one of the things that I love about sales, and I think one of the most challenging things is quantifying and kind of putting a dollar amount on the ROI of what it is that we do. Um, what would you say, if someone were to ask you, and obviously it's been kind of, I guess, easier for you because you have a referral. So, people vouching for you always helps the business cycle. But, in terms of, Eryn, why do we need you? Has anyone ever asked that before? How do I make sure that the amount I'm paying you is going to justify it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So that's where half the fun is. Because an executive, most often, value ranges, right? But as an executive, you're worth 2 to 800 an hour, really, for the value that you drive for your company. There's different metrics and stuff that you can kind of apply to that. But for executive support, if we set up a series of, say, 3 goals per quarter, we can calculate what those goals are worth to your company. We can calculate what value that is going to bring to your organization. Not necessarily on a specific dollar level. Sometimes it works that way, sometimes it doesn't. But if we are rerouting an executive, say 2 to 3 or 4 hours per day of the strategy work and the organization and the all of the things that we take we take off of their mind, that value is really easy to recognize. Because let's say on the low end, they're worth 200 an hour for the time that they bring to their company, and they're developing this brand new product that they want to launch on their market, say in 6 months. And that new product is going to be worth 1.5 million in additional, value to the company, or $500,000 in value to the company, right? And we make that possible in 2 to 4 hour increments per day of the work that we handle, and the bandwidth and brain space that we open up for that executive to not only be better at the relationships within the company, which has a number of downstream effects, but also bring them closer to recognizing their own growth potential, right? We are reinvesting just on a dollar amount anywhere from $600, $400, $800 per day that they get to redistribute into other areas of their company. One of my favorite rants is what I call death by 1,000 cuts, which is an executive who is like, oh, it takes me 2 minutes to do. Let me just take care of it. It's 30 seconds. Oh, I can take care of that in 5 minutes. If you take all of that at the end of a week, it's death by 1,000 cuts. You have sacrificed 5 hours, 10 hours of time, and not just the minutes, but that break in thought, right? They say if you're driving on a road trip and you stop at a rest stop, how many miles you lose. You're at a rest stop for 5 minutes, but how many miles have you lost? Well, same concept applies to leadership. If you're doing something and you break and you go over here and do this thing that takes 2 minutes to do, and you go, how much time did you lose? How much momentum did you lose? And so those different aspects of ROI, right? That's what we like to look at. So we do quarterly assessments, and we review the value that we have brought to that executive on that level. Here's where we started. Here's where we are now. Take a look at all of these things that you accomplished as a result of the service that we brought. And, maybe it's, I think we did one analysis for an executive. I think he was getting 200 and some emails per day. And with just the emails that we were able to handle and clear out and save on that level, I think the value was like $26,000 or something like that is what we ended up tracing for just the value return for email support.
Was that based on his or her time?
Yep, hourly. Yep, just like the hourly time that we were rerouting, and then what the value of some of those relationships were.
Wow.
One of my favorite stories is I was doing email I was doing email management, and a big part of what we like to focus on is relationship management, which is making sure that everybody in your circle, in your network, feels important to you. By maintaining those relationships, we had something go full circle where the executive, through email drafts and a number of different things, we took really, really good care of this one account that was just very small, was probably going to drop off the map if I didn't push it, if I didn't follow up, if I didn't take care of those little details to make that person feel seen. And they ended up getting a role in another organization. They were promoted within that organization. And who did they think of when they needed to hire this other, when they were like, oh, we need to hire a person for that role? Who did they come to? They came back to my client. And that account ended up being a very significant account in their portfolio. So because of that full sort of like little tiny things that you think, oh, I don't need to respond to that email. What does that look like a year from now? Little things like that. So,
Wow. So, love the entrepreneurial drive. I mean, you clearly had a vision since day one, but let's talk about the 20, you said 28 people you have now.
Yeah.
It's one thing to be a hardcore real estate agent, closer, individual contributor, but it's a whole different beast to become a founder and CEO. Tell me a little bit about what was that journey like to pass off some of the reins to new employees now and having to hire people in management. What was that shift like from just from IC?
Hard.
What are some of the challenges you personally experienced, though? Just a few key points.
I think for Sapphire, I start with the team that we started. The company culture was so important that we were based around personal empowerment. So with every single person that we hire, we wanted that person to be excited to be there, to feel wanted, to feel important. And by reinforcing that company culture on my end, right, it kind of, it developed roots and grew in of itself. And each person, rather than me having to defend the company culture, each person steps up and says, well, no, this is how we do things around here. And through that empowerment, through saying, okay, what are you good at? What kind of things leave you feeling very excited and very motivated at the end of the day? By constantly being aware of those skill sets of everybody within the team, for me, when something would come up, delegation or leadership, or I'm like, shoot, this is a really huge brick wall. Who do we have on the team? What can we do? And so I would throw it out there and I'd say, okay, here's the problem. Here's what we've got. The most significant thing happened just this last November with the company, because as a whole, we were providing one product, basically contract executive support for a long term, and weren't really doing direct hire, weren't really exploring, anything along those lines. And I got a number of different clients who wanted to direct hire their EA, and I pushed back. I was like, that's not what we do. And it happened enough that I was like, okay, I actually have to deal with this now. And so I
do not poach clause.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Legit. So I called a leadership meeting and I made it available to everybody from the team. And I was like, we have to build a roadmap for 2022. Company is probably going to end up doing a pivot. Everybody can attend. And I did a Zoom meeting, and I explained the issue. I explained what we were dealing with. I explained the roadblocks. I explained what we had to accomplish in order to make this happen. And then I opened the floor, and my leaders stepped up, and people that I didn't expect stepped up. And by the end of that meeting, we had established our roadmap team. And then I sat on my hands because I realized if I got into it, I was probably going to bottleneck the thing. And so I was like, no, the company is based on personal empowerment. I am going to allow all of these individuals on my team who feel confident about their abilities to do what they feel they can do. And in a period of 6 weeks, we had a full roadmap, and we had a structure, and we were very close to having a deliverable. And I was blown away. I was like, I threw you guys a pile of ambiguous smoke, and we created something amazing. So we're basing everything that we're doing on 2022 on the products that my roadmap team created. And it's game changing the company. I mean, it's creating something amazing. So I think
it's amazing.
Hopefully I didn't get like too far off topic, because I tend to rabbit trail with stuff like that. But for the leadership front, you have to empower each person, right? You're going to have surprises. You're going to have people where you're like, I had no idea you were capable of that. Yeah.
Love it.
Feel free to reroute me if I got totally off track.
Well, no, I mean, it's, well, first of all, you could tell you're passionate about what you do.
Yeah.
I started talking about Teletubbies and TV, that'd be a different story, but you know, unless it's Teletubbies, where'd that even come from?
Oh man, that's old stuff. Holy cow.
My son was playing with something earlier, and I was like, it kind of looks like a Teletubby. Anyway, my mind goes into different directions too. I get it. No, that's awesome, man. That's what I want to know is, you know, how did you attract people to actually join your mission, join your vision? It sounds like you just they sense that in you. So
we handled recruiting in the same way. That was something that I wasn't really sure how to dig into. You know, how do you recruit? How do you do that? And through one pretty amazing story. My COO, she started a year and a half ago, straight out of social work. She'd been in social work for her entire existence. Didn't really know executive support. And her journey was mind-blowing. I mean, from a leadership stance, when somebody does that, when they throw that much of themselves, just like I did, right? You know, I'm passionate. I see passion. I recognize that in other people. And the position, like, it gave her wings, and she flew. And so when she ended up settling into the role of COO, like, we all knew it. Everybody knew it. There was no contention on, oh, well, she got the promotion. We didn't do that. It was oh, well, obviously. And I think that's how that's kind of going. One of my fellows in Hungary, he came to me the other day, and he was like, you know, I know we're not here yet, but I want to be the CFO. Not CFO, CTO. And he's like, I know that we don't have all the stuff yet. I know that we haven't developed like all of the problems yet, but I was researching this role, and I feel like we're going to run into this stuff in like the next 6 months. And I want to do that. And he's like, I hope that's not too forward. I'm like, no, you know what? If this is where your passion is, I would rather know that now, because when we bump into that brick wall and we're like, oh crap, what do we do? This is a huge thing. Oh wait, we have a solution for that. He wanted to do that. And so we're like, at that point, it's no longer a brick wall. We're like, hey, you remember you said here, we'll do the thing. and then it just self-perpetuates. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, hey, love it. What's your plan? Let's put give me
Yes, exactly.
just give me a quick outline of how do we get you there, and let's get you there. But no, the
Yes.
fact that you mentioned right? He took that initiative of, not many people want to speak up, Eryn. So the fact that he even took that route, I already applaud him.
Well, we encourage that, right? We encourage that. We do personality matching for every single one of our executives. That's one of the foundations of, I think, why our relationships work so well, is we make sure that you're going to like this person on a foundational level. Like, do you communicate the same way? Do you have the same work ethic? Do you have the same, like, there are certain, and then of course the opposite balance, right? So we do.
Do you use like a?
We do.
Myers-Briggs, I think, or
no. Can we like get into brand? I mean, we have a partnership with the company, but I don't know how you feel about like actually mentioning brand names. So we utilize Acumax, which is a company that they're fantastic. And we're in the process of forming like partnerships with a number of the different tools and stuff that we use, but Acumax was the best one that I've found so far. Takes about 5 minutes, because that's about the attention span of an executive. If you throw them a Myers-Briggs, they're going to get 2 seconds into that and be like, this is way too much work. So another one of our internal success stories is we were recruiting, and there was this young fellow, he worked in construction, and we loved his interviews, and we thought, okay, clearly he has no professional, I mean, like very, very limited professional like engagement. We had no idea, but we felt that he had the right stuff. And so we ended up bringing him on. He dove, oh man, such passion into our personality profiles and how to do all of these, like how to do these assessments. And through that discovery phase, he made it very clear, like, this is what I love to do. And we kind of like, we're like, okay, like we'll give you the wings to do this. And he's learning everything that there is to know about personality matching. So when we get new executives, we go, like, we know who to go to. We don't have to even think about it. We're like, hey, would you please, help us find a match for this person? And then when we bring new people onto the team, studying those personality things and figuring out where their skills are and figuring out where they need to be in the company, those all go to we have all of this information, right, compiled into our database of like skill sets and different things. So in the midst of this economic, which is funny because I'm like, nobody can find people to work, right? The last recruiting effort that we had, we put our listing on Indeed. It was on there for 18 hours and we had 137 applications. And I was like, shut it down. Mayday. Wow. And then we put together this recruiting process of multiple different steps to weed out people who didn't share the passion and the culture and the ideology that this company needs. And the folks that we hired out of that bunch are probably some of the most promising individuals on our team. They're just, one aspect that we realized we needed was a training academy. So we were building the Sapphire Academy within Sapphire, which is going to be a kind of a school essentially that all of our new recruits will go through to make sure that they do executive support the way that we like it done.
Right.
And the lady that we hired to build the academy, she worked with us 4 days and she put together a framework for the academy. Like, she came to us, she's like, I know I just started, I'm still just figuring all this stuff out, but this is kind of what I am putting together. And we're like, this is amazing, run with it, like, do the thing. And so each person that we're bringing on, it's, what do you want to do? What are you going to be excited to wake up for? Because we're not, we're remote. Nobody's looking over your shoulder. Nobody's asking you, did you get that done? Did you take care of that? Like, I don't care if you're having a martini on the beach, as long as your client is happy. Like, it really doesn't matter. So if you're not excited to do what it is that you're doing, why are you here?
Love it.
So
that's amazing. 2 more questions for you, Eryn, I promise. And we're going to call it.
I am a rabbit. Yeah.
No, this is great. I'm super blown away by just from your knitting experience all the way to what you've become with 28 employees. It's not easy being a mom of 4 though, and still being an entrepreneur. How do you manage that? You're already dealing with all these executives there. How do you manage the lifestyle of 4 kids?
Kids are incredible. The apple of insanity does not fall far from the tree. Let me tell you that much.
Gender is key, and you clearly have it.
So 19, 17, 15, and 13.
That's a lot of teens.
I love teenagers. Oh, I love teenagers. I think they are just the coolest group of people. Oh, love them.
I'm sure the feeling is mutual, but it doesn't answer the question of.
So my 19-year-old is chasing videography and film production. My daughter is a cellist and a composer.
Cello.
And
wow.
she's amazing, and she wants to compose music, and she writes symphonies, and just incredible. My 15-year-old wants to be a neurosurgeon, and is like currently on the track record. He's taking every biomedical class that he can get his hands on, shadowing, apprenticeships, everything that he can touch. And then my 13-year-old is video animation and design and coding. So as far as like managing, I don't manage them. I just basically keep them, you keep them fed, and then you let them fly. So and they also have an amazing dad. So there's my two of them still live in Montana, and then 2 of them are here in Washington. So yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you let your employees spread their wings and fly. I'd imagine you let your kids do the same.
Yeah.
Thing. A videographer, a coder, a musician, and a neurosurgeon. So I grew up in a Middle East, Eastern European mentality. Is if you don't become a doctor and a lawyer, you're a nobody. And that was a terrible mentality. Clearly it didn't work out.
If you don't love it, why are you doing it? Exactly. One of my favorite quotes: build a life you don't need a vacation from.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna write it down.
So that's the rule. Like yeah.
I respect it, Eryn. I respect your entrepreneurship. I respect your drive. Definitely respect you as a parent now. And one last question for you. If you had to go back, this is one of my favorite questions I always ask, and go back and tell your 18-year-old self one thing, what would you tell younger Eryn?
You did it.
You did it?
Did it.
Wow.
There's still a lot to do, but I tell you, I was scraping and pulling and crying and bleeding, and just like, does it even matter? And so no, I'd be like, yeah, like, you did it. It's cool.
Well, that's what blood and tears clearly paid off. Eryn, thank you so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure meeting you. Absolute pleasure, I must say. Continue crushing it out there. I can't wait to see you going 2xing, 3xing that number to
we 3x'd 2021. So
wow.
I can only imagine what this year is going to do.
Super excited. Thank you so much. Continue staying in touch, and take care of yourself.